Allow me to add my thanks to both the Organization of American States and to the organizers of the meeting this morning. Project PLOUGHSHARES is a member of Canadian civil society, and we share in the tradition of civil society that is also here in the U.S. of actively engaging with our own government and with other governments to make policy suggestions, engage in research, and contribute to a shared goal of constructively building peace. Now, we are primarily and first a disarmament organization. The name PLOUGHSHARES does not come from making agricultural instruments, but comes from the Older Testament that says they shall beat their swords into plowshares, the vision of creating something constructive and new from the instruments of military destruction. On several fronts, we believe we make a constructive contribution to disarmament, and I'd like to just illustrate those briefly. And it doesn't have to do specifically with the OAS region, but yes, it does. We chair a group called the Space Security Index, which is really a preventative conflict instrument related to outer space. And this engages international experts in a cross-sectoral dialogue. We set the table as Project PLOUGHSHARES with funding from foundations and also from the Canadian government to talk about how can we prevent the weaponization of space and to keep militarization of space, which is already a fact, in proportion so that space remains a region of access and engagement that all can have access to, not just the major players. Another thing that we've done in the context of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is to catalog reports that states are supposed to make on their Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty obligations, but because there's not a treaty secretariat per se for the NPT, we as Project PLOUGHSHARES do that, post on our website, and create for significant meetings. Why do I bring these illustrations? Because there are particular places and times where the research policy engagement role of NGOs, of civil society organizations, can create opportunities, one, for filling gaps in knowledge and understanding, and we all have those. And secondly, for setting the table for dialogues. My own experience with sub-regional and regional organizations is more in Africa, and I've worked closely with a counterpart organization in Kenya that has worked with the Intergovernmental Agency on Development, which is the worst acronym that you can imagine, IGAD. But it is, for the Horn of Africa, the sub-regional organization, similar to the sub-regional organization spoken of today. And we set up, with our counterpart in Nairobi, a civil society research and dialogue process using researchers in security from that region to talk about what are the security challenges of the Horn of Africa. And they are severe. And in that process have had roundtables hosted by the IGAD Secretariat, but also in the nation, in the specific capitals of that region, and states, representatives, diplomats, and foreign ministry officials, academics, civil society organizations have all been around those tables to advance longer-term discussions on the structural problems of violence in that area. Coming closer to home, we are trying to work more closely with CARICOM and the Impact Secretariat that was mentioned this morning by Mr. Green, that dealing with disarmament questions, particularly small arms and light weapons, is not possible, we now conclude, without addressing the developmental aspects of the problem. And so we have, in the broad international spectrum, the Geneva Declaration on Armed Violence Reduction. And I want to just put in a little policy plug here. Conflict isn't actually a problem. Conflict's endemic to human relationships and to states. It's violence in response to conflicts, which is the problem, and which is, I think we share, both governments and CSOs, a deep desire to have conflicts resolved non-violently. And so we're working there and trying to understand both the context and working with civil society organizations a network, particularly women's organizations, and I note, as others have noted, that we're not exactly gender balanced in our panelists this morning, but we're trying to also understand that women and women's organizations are a vital component of the peace building mix. Let me stop there.